But I'm not a rapper.
But I'm not a rapper. Mr. Garibaldi. Mr. Garibaldi. Oh, Mr. Garibaldi. I'm just going to practice some voices for a bit. Here we go. Mr. Garibaldi. Mr. Garibaldi. Oh, Mr. Garibaldi. Mr. Garibaldi. Mr. Garibaldi. Mr. Garibaldi. And then give me your veer. Veer, bring me my hot soup.
Right away, Londo.
It does say it with like 8 syllables somehow. Londo.
Londo.
The Babylon Project was our last, best hope for peace. A self-contained world 5 miles long, located in neutral territory. A place of commerce and diplomacy for 250,000 humans and aliens. A shining beacon in space, all alone in the night. It was the dawn of the third age of mankind, the year the Great War came upon us all. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations. The year is 2259. The name of the place is Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Allen, and what do I hope for? I hope to get through this podcast without getting fired. How's that for a start, Magellan, my boss?
Hey, I'm your boss.
Yeah? Will you write my paychecks?
Oh, I'll write your paychecks.
The shittiest sexual roleplay of all time.
Oh, I'm giving you a raise of this. I'm gonna raise this penis for you.
Yep, I love.
Oh man,
I'll show you my
No,
401k.
No.
No.
I'm out.
No.
Hey, man.
I'm out. Hi, hello.
How's it hanging? Nope. How are you?
Good now, though. We're just a mess.
The other day
So
in
this
class, I taught about Theodore Roosevelt and big stick diplomacy, and wouldn't you know, that's funny.
What is big stick diplomacy? Just give me a short version for the kids.
Well, Theodore Roosevelt's attitude towards America's role in the world is that the United States should display its military might as a way of remaining at peace and remaining in a position of power in the world. So you speak softly, but you carry a big stick.
Oh, I've heard of this.
You carry a big stick.
I have a big stick, and I'm sure the kids didn't like giggle at that or anything like that.
Well,
at all.
I was like, in the way, in Roosevelt, when he's talking about a big stick, and I can pause.
And there you go. That's where you get the uproarious laughter.
I'm doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
He also, was a member of the cavalry battalion called the Rough Riders.
Yes. Wow, how much of the Roosevelt presidency was like innuendo, sexual innuendo?
Just the whole thing.
Yeah, just the whole, Magellan? Yeah, just the whole.
Okay.
You said it, man. You're the teacher here. This is Chatzylon 5, where my friend Magellan and I...
agreement, huh? All right, go ahead.
Speaking of big stick agreements... Chatzylon 5, where Magellan and I watch Babylon 5 2 episodes a week. And this week, we watched Season 2, Episode 15, And Now for a Word, as well as Season 2, Episode 16, In the Shadow of Zahadum. And first up is And Now for a Word, which was written by JMS, directed by Maria DeLeo. It aired May 3rd, 1995, and it takes place on Saturday, September 16th, 2259. Magellan, what happened in And Now for a Word?
In this episode, ISN films a segment on Babylon 5, right in the midst of a deadly conflict between the Narn regime and the Centauri Republic. Alan, what did you think of it now for a word?
I was really impressed with this episode.
Tell me
Weirdly,
more.
going into this week, I figured the second episode has Zahadum in the title. That's going to be the big chunky one. And this one's going to be kind of silly. We're going to have a news reporter. We had one of those before. We actually got an email about why that is becoming, that's now a trend on this show. Basically, JMS, I think, worked as a journalist for a while. So it's like a little bit of his self-inserting. But what's cool is not only do they stick to the framing device of this episode, like this news report about Babylon 5, they also up the stakes in the Narn Centauri War in a way that felt bigger than this, like, admittedly, initially small-scale episode.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I agree. I think we sort of had the sense when we read the previews for these episodes that this one would be kind of a throwaway, kitschy gimmick episode.
Yeah.
Jeez. A bit of sore throat over here. And so I was ready for it to be funny, which it was. Probably one of the funnier, like intentionally funny episodes that we've seen in a while, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also consequential for the larger plot of the show, which I didn't anticipate. And I was pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of imagining what another version of this episode would have been like, you know, if it was a throwaway one where the reporter comes on the ship and everybody talks to her, and, you know, similar to what Infection was billing itself as, of like, this is what Babylon 5 presents itself as to the media.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it, then I think this would have ended a lot more optimistically than we know Babylon 5 to end its episodes. But to set it up like that, and then to have it also coincide with one of the worst days on this ship's history, is kind of damning of the whole point of the report,
Right.
which is like, is Babylon 5 worth it? Is this peacekeeping ship actually keeping peace?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just a funnel for different, like, hotbeds of conflict to fight each other and hit each other at close range?
Right.
And it's kind of sad watching, like, everybody want things to go well, and we get this, like, really silly introduction with, like, all these computer graphics and stuff, and you're like, all right, heck yeah, we're going to get a news report, and it's going to be like, wow, Babylon 5 is amazing and inspiring. And Sheridan has this speech at the end of the episode that is clearly intended to be that. It's intended to say, like, yeah, we're messed up, and yeah, we fight and basically kill each other every 5 minutes, but, like, we're doing our best. And I don't think that rings as true to me as it maybe was supposed to.
Yeah, it's this episode is packaging a few different themes that we've seen expressed previously in this show to greater or lesser effect. One of them is the sense of urgency and just like seat of your pants, what the fuck response around the Centauri Narn conflict, which I think is actually stronger in this episode than I've seen it before, because you have this like handheld camera, like you're watching the news. That's, you know, that's meant to feel that way. And so when you see the Narn ship show up and you realize that from a cinematographic perspective, you're stuck in that one camera. All you can do is watch as that ship attacks the other ship, and you're like, no,
I don't want to see that happen.
I'm powerless here. So that is definitely more effective than I've seen it before. And then to speak to what you're talking about, this rah message of peace is worth it and Babylon 5 is worth it. Having the what's the there's like a term that I want to use. I think the word I want to use is verisimilitude, but I don't know how it works. So I'm just going to say that being in the perspective of a news camera and seeing Sheridan give a very Sinclair-esque end of the episode speech makes you view it as if he's like a public official giving that speech, as opposed to a character on a TV show.
Yeah.
And when it's a public official giving that speech, you're like, dude, I just watched the news. You're full of shit. There's a war happening inside and directly outside of Babylon 5. So you can't sit there and tell me that it's like solving things, because I just watched this. As opposed to Sinclair, when he gave a similar speech to a news reporter in season 1, you kind of felt the hand of JMS steering the script in that moment. But at the same time, you're like, okay, the show either has earned this or is going to earn it very soon. So I'll buy it. But here it makes you wonder, because so much of this episode is tongue-in-cheek and satirical, it makes me wonder if we're even meant to take this ending seriously.
I'm starting to lean towards the answer maybe to that being no, because, again, comparing it to that episode, it felt like in season 1 of Babylon 5, one of our biggest compliments was that it was confident from the get-go.
And like,
it kind of knew what it wanted to be.
I think, until things started going bad.
Exactly. And this season has been about disassembling that optimism and answering that thematic question that you brought up last season of like, this is why we can't have nice things.
Right.
And I think JMS and company have realized that and have seen the optimism of the show kind of intentionally get away from them.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, now when you see that, basically that exact same scene, doesn't it feel a little bit ironic? Whereas before it felt like, okay, I guess I get it, but I really don't believe you. Now it's like, no, I know you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And you feel this like willingness to accept that things aren't good and they're never going to be good, but like we're alive.
Right. And I think it's pretty masterful that it's putting us in this position, because it's so easy and safe for a TV show to say like, isn't peace good? And then for this show to say like, okay, you thought peace was good, but check this stuff out. Now what do you think? Huh? Oh, bet you're not so sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's telling you that piece is false and entirely constructed, like so much of this episode feels like. All of the scenes of people standing on the bridge and they're saying something normally, but then they kind of straighten up a little bit like, oh wait, I'm on TV. I need to be a little bit more performy.
Yeah.
Really comes across in their performances, especially from Sheridan and Ivanova.
Yeah.
I think one of the best scenes, like representing how the hand of the camera affects the characters, is this part where they're in CNC, I believe, and he's talking about like, Jakar and Londo's people are fighting each other right now. I want everybody who's out there to be sent to the brig. And then I want the ambassadors here immediately. And Ivanova says, they're going to refuse. They're going to absolutely refuse. What do I do in that case? He says, tell them I'm going to send them to the brig. And then Ivanova's like, she kind of like nudges her head towards the camera. And he's like, okay, never mind. Actually,
Right.
Just kind of be nice to them for now and let's figure this out. Because you can't just be the Babylon 5, like, rah, let's take out the bad guys show.
Yeah.
And let's be the cool hero Sheridan when your entire ass is on the line and everybody's watching you.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate seeing different characters in one-on-one interviews, because you get varying degrees of that kind of performative fakeness from different people that it's easy for us to dissect because we know these characters so well. So that like when Londo's on screen and he's talking about a few moments, like this episode really made me hate Londo, dude. Big time.
Boy, wow.
Big time. Like despise Londo.
I mean,
Peter Jurassic is amazing and doing
Yeah.
exactly what he needs to be doing, because I hate Londo. He's a horrible person. The ending where he's talking to the camera and he's like, yeah, peace, totally, of course. And the point of Babylon 5 is to make sure that there's never going to be another point where the Narn needlessly attack us out of nowhere when we're peacefully protesting.
Yeah.
And you're like, buddy, what the
hell is wrong with
doing?
you?
Because 10 minutes ago, you were on the screen saying, I will blow up anyone who touches the Centauri ship, including all of Babylon 5.
You send a whole entire Centauri war cruiser to Babylon 5, guns armed and loaded, pointing at it, and you're like, well, you guys forced my hand. I didn't mean to. And it's like, dude, honestly, it's frustrating, but this stuff, like all his
But it's
lines.
so real because you see
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like that on the news getting away with
That's
dishonesty
exactly what
and
I'm about to
doublespeak like
say.
that all the fucking time.
That's just the way it goes. Is the like they started it. It's the they started it narrative.
Yeah, the
where
like
he
the
says,
stupid both sidedness of it all.
yeah. Alondo the centrist.
Oh my god, it's
I
maddening.
just got a New York Times news alert about similar things. By the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And then the audacity that he has. I mean, this gave me much more sympathy for Jakar also, this episode.
Yeah.
Because the audacity that Londo has when they're asking him about the history of Centauri-Narn relations. And he was like, when we found the Narn, they were, brutes. They were uncivilized. We brought them to the stars. We gave them technology. We helped them. It's like literally a week ago in my U.S. history class, I was teaching my students about American imperialism and about America's justifications for taking over the Philippines, and the same shit about like they're a backwards race and we are like these enlightened people and chosen by God, and we're going to give them our technology and take care of them. And what's actually happening is that it's a violent suppression of an entire nation's worth of people's right to self-govern. And there's murder and cruelty that is immediately swept under the rug. And there's a gaslighting of the entire international community to say, like, what's the problem? We're nice dudes. We're just trying to help out. And they're throwing it back in our face.
How rude of them. It really does frame Jakar's sort of passiveness and willingness to, like, just defend his own people and not attack as like really admirable, because his line when asked the similar question is like, we had resources and they took them. And like he's playing the victim there, but he's saying stuff like, as long as there is a group with resources and a group with more power than them, the other group is going to take that. Why? Because they freaking can.
Yeah.
The Centauri will always fight the Narn because why not? Because they know they're stronger than we are.
Everything with Jakar, I'm glued to the screen. That I loved that scene where he says, why? I mean, you're from Earth. This has happened on your planet a bajillion times. That people have conquered other people for land or for stuff or just to have power over them. It's not that complicated of a narrative, and it keeps happening. And we have to break out of this cycle at some point in some way. And maybe the way to break out of that cycle is people like the Narn stand up and they say, never again will we be treated that way. Like maybe, I don't know. It calls into question, is a sort of violent response what breaks this?
Yeah. They're extremely on some Gundam shit, being like, yeah, is the only way to instill change into the hearts of the people is to convince them that, like, yeah, maybe sometimes we have to fight back. It's not about killing them with kindness. It's not about flowers and their guns. It's about, like, taking
it's not
up
about
arms.
civility. It's about, exactly. And, like, and you see Jakar at the end of the episode, and this is what I love about the final... I think it ending on Sheridan is kind of cheesy, but I really appreciate the final montage where the reporter's like, and we asked everybody, do they think that Babylon 5 is a good idea? And Londo's like, oh, I think so, but those Narns, nuh-uh. And of course, Delenn is like, beautiful, poetic, peace is important, humans build communities. Like, thank you, Delenn. That was gorgeous. Thank you. That was very nice. And Jakar is just kind of like walking through the cafeteria trying to get a sandwich, and he's like, no, I don't think it works.
I'm not entirely convinced, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's the kind of person who needs to be running it. Is the person who knows that it's not a perfect paradise,
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot in this episode. I think all of the Londo and Jakar stuff concludes in this really beautiful scene in the courtroom where they're basically
Or that's
arguing about like
that's
what
like the climax anyway. Yeah.
right where Sheridan is playing the role of judge, jury, and executioner,
Yeah.
being like, all right, guys, say your piece. And Jakar is quickly the first one to stand up and be like, they've been attacking us forever. They have no reason to stop attacking us. They clearly have weapons of mass destruction on their ships. You owe it to us to at least seize those ships. And then Londo screams. He's like, no, you will not take any of this. None of this is fair. None of you have the right to do any of this.
Yeah.
And it's this like, and they're both wearing capes, which I love.
Yeah,
and
everyone
and
has like fancier clothes on.
yeah, they're in their like court clothes.
Yeah.
And it's all one take because it's still being filmed from the perspective of the news reporter, and they're like moving around it's very reminds me of a play, the way that they're like monologuing at each other, being like, you guys don't freaking get why we're doing this, and you'll never get it, and you need to be stopped. And it's up to Babylon 5, it's up to Captain Sheridan to take my side and end this. And he's like, I can't. And then he just gets interrupted by, I think it's Ivanov being like, Captain, we've got a shooting war going on outside.
Yeah, you got to come up here, see this.
They're like people with
crazy.
guns. This is the moment where he goes above the law, number one, and orders his ships to fire on the Narn and Centauri. And then has that funny moment.
He does?
Well, he like considers it, right? And then he hesitates. But he's like ready to do it.
Well, I think
No, he does do it.
he fires on the Narn and Centauri.
Well, because he's like, I don't know if I should. And then one of them like threatens him, and then he's like, yeah, guys, go away. He basically says like, if you have to, you have permission to do it.
No. Yeah, so what happens is they're like going to pick up this little Centauri ship that has the weapons on it, maybe. And Londo's like, don't, or I'll blow you up.
Yeah.
And Sheridan says, go anyway. And if it looks like he's going to try to blow us up, blow him up first. Then the Narn show up.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, because he says, like, this would start a war. And I'm like, I really hope we didn't start a war in this, like, seemingly one-offy episode.
Yeah.
Ultimate use of the framing device, though, of this being a TV broadcast is right when it seems like they're about to, like, be in a three-way war. We cut to a Psy-Core commercial.
Right.
It's just, like, an intermission of this, like, high-tensity... Tensity? It's not a word. Tension. High-tension battle. And then it's this like little kid named John, and I honestly thought for like half a second, because it just cuts weirdly, that this like suburban sad kid was John Sheridan, because she's like, Johnny, it's time for breakfast.
Yeah.
And I was like, was this a flashback?
Yeah, for a
what are we
split second,
doing?
I was like, is that what's going on?
And it turns out that no, his friends don't like him because he's weird and he has different opinions. And then this random man walks into his house like it's in a 50s sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, Johnny, you know, you're actually right. And you are a budding psychic and you should join Psy-Core and we'll give you community. And this is the part where it's like very, I think, critical of sort of capitalism in the way that we inspire our kids to learn is like, you're going to get a job, you're going to have purpose in life and a job, and we'll teach you and we'll pay for it all. Isn't that sick? And you're like, oh, do you just feel gross watching this?
Yeah.
And then they cut to 2 weeks later and he's like a beautiful Aryan boy with his like nicely coiffed hair. And his mom is like, congratulations, John, you've grown so much. I'm so excited for you to join the Corps. And we get this subliminal message. I looked it up because I couldn't pause it fast enough, but it's like, Psy-Core is your friend. Trust the Corps. Like, shit. In case you forgot, 5 feet away, we have like the nastiest fascist government.
It did not make total in-universe sense to me that they would need to have ads.
Right?
But I was willing to suspend my disbelief because it was funny.
I think it's a Hearts and Minds campaign, though, because, like, she asks, like, how do we join? And it's not, like, call a number or, like, go to this place. It's like, just look around. Like, go 5 feet and you'll find us.
Yeah. It's just propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. You know how to get to Psy-Core. You can join them if you want to. We want you to know, like, hey, we're around. Yeah. Don't you like us? We're cool.
Yeah.
We cut back to all the fighting, and they start threatening Sheridan. He pulls like the modern like way that we deal with terrorists, which is like, we don't give in to demands no matter how much you threaten us.
Yeah.
Which felt, again, weirdly prescient.
Well, and then, the weapons of mass destruction thing.
All of that, yeah. Where it's
also,
like, you have to fire on them. They have WMDs. Are you kidding me?
When did this episode come out again? Like the 90s?
95, yeah.
95, yeah. That must have been in the conversation. I didn't realize that WMDs were like a phrase that was being bandied about.
I feel like I watched a documentary that was at one point brought up the origin of that term, and now I can't remember what it was. It might have been that one with the guy. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember it.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Do you know the one I'm talking about that we watched in school a lot?
That we watched in school a lot.
I watched it a couple times.
You're thinking of the one with the guy who was like a general or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Oh, shit. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
Origin of the term weapons of mass destruction. I found it. Oh, 1925, the Geneva Convention prohibited the use in war of gases, biological weapons of warfare. First used in 1937. So it's a term that had been around for a while.
In 1937?
Yeah.
Weird.
Used to describe a Luftwaffe German Air Force attack on the town of Guernica, Spain.
Really? They called that a weapon of mass destruction?
Apparently, according to this article on historynewsnetwork.org. Yeah. But it definitely, like, within the Gulf War and then going into the Iraq War, was a term that was bandied about a lot.
Yeah.
If you were alive at that time, you recognize that. And then, yeah, basically it starts to disassemble, and the conflict just kind of ends. I'm trying to remember what was like the thing that ended the conflict for now.
Just those two ships blew each other up, and then we kind of moved away from it.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
There wasn't really like a resolution or anything.
Right. The resolution more comes from the reporter leaving and talking to the senator, and then having all those conclusion parts, like you said.
Yeah.
What were some moments from this episode that you wanted to talk about that we haven't mentioned?
I mean, we can just talk about the fact that it's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny.
The performance of the host is great. Cynthia Torkman, who at first I thought, when the guy was like, and now with Cynthia Torkman, I thought he said Cynthia Talkman. And I was like, well, this episode's going to be dumb.
Yeah, here we go.
But it's not that dumb. We get some kind of fun appearances from side characters on the ship. So the guy from the unionization is okay episode. And
you mean Eduardo Del Viento?
Yes.
Sorry, I had to find my notes.
Yep. The guy
David Corwin?
The guy who works on the bridge.
David Corwin, favorite side character.
Yeah, he's your favorite.
No, Zach Allen is. David Corwin is like a charming because he is nothing. He's just like Ivanova's stepping stool.
Yeah.
We'll talk. We'll I know you disagree. It's fine. You're allowed to disagree. It's right now the running for like best worst side character on Babylon 5 is David Corwin, who honestly, dude, if you go back, he's been in like every single episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got David Corwin, we got Zach Allen, the newly appointed
You always
Batman.
fall in love with these boring characters.
I'm just a hopeless romantic, man. I don't know what to tell
right.
you.
I
And
can't
then you
hold
have
it against
the
you.
goat, the original goat, Warden Keffer, who just deserves the world.
Oh, bro, please don't even joke.
He's so good.
Don't
He's
even
like,
joke
he's not
about
in this
Warden
episode. I was disappointed.
Were you disappointed?
Deeply, deeply disappointed.
All
When they
right.
were like, can we see what the Alpha Wings are up to? I was like, no, Zeta Wings. He's gonna be like, get the boys on the line. I miss him deeply.
Oh,
I like
and then
that
the attempt to interview Kosh.
It's the funniest fucking
She's
scene
like,
of the whole
Kosh, like
episode.
knocking at his door, and then he's there. And then she's like, did you get that? Just the 3 seconds of Kosh closing the door.
That's me. Anytime someone's like, do you want to come out? We're all going out tonight. And then you just like look at them, slide backwards, smoke rises, and the door shuts, and you're never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like perfection.
Yeah.
No, the more I know about Kosh, the more I actually like his attitude, honestly. The more I've like learned about who he is.
You've always liked his attitude, though.
I did, but like in a different, it's like reframed it because now it has like a justification for why he's so aloof.
Yeah.
But I do love, I do, and I have always loved his fucking booger face. Yeah, and then I had a couple notes about how the senator Ronald Quantrell is just a nasty man. I think that the episode mostly, a lot of the humor comes from him and Cynthia Torkman being like a little bit racist.
Yeah.
In the way that like people in their 60s are, where they're like,
that part.
I mean,
oh my god, the stupidest, but like purposely stupid, funny line is when she's like, "This is the alien sector. 40% are non-human." But funnily enough, the alien sector is what they call the part where the humans live. I guess.
Weird.
And then she says, "I guess beauty and the beast are in the eye of the beholder."
And then we are all the alien that walks by in the background, like the fuck. What?
Trying to go to my room.
Yeah, I was taking a nap. What the heck's wrong with you? That guy's hilarious. The comedy of being like, and now it's time for a little intervention. And then she like walks in and they're like, fire the phasers, we're gonna die. She's like, baby, we'll get to check out this thing. Every time she cuts to footage, they interrupt her. They don't like wait till she finishes talking. They just interrupt her to cut to her footage.
Yeah. The editing is done in such a way where there's always like a second too long of an empty screen. Or, they cut her off a second too soon, which is very funny.
Or maybe this was like the TV I was watching on or something, but whenever they did a one-on-one interview, it was like cropped too close.
Yeah, that too.
Which that didn't feel like how news reports are. That felt like the way it is when you record it on a VHS, and it like breaks the cropping of the episode a little bit.
It's kind of cool. There's kind of a 60 minutes thing to that, though, I think.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing that's being spoofed, right? Is it's the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think they call this report 36 minutes. 36 hours.
Which, first of all, I was confused. Does that mean she was saying we shot 36 hours of footage? Or are we only seeing part of a 36-hour news broadcast?
I think it's the latter. No. I don't think it's a 36 hours news broadcast. I think she was there for 36 hours, and they cut it down into a broadcast.
That makes more sense. But at first, I thought it was like, we're about to show you 36 hours of footage on TV. In my head, I'm like, why does JMS think that in the future people will have more time to watch the news?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very funny. I'm trying to see if I have any other funny notes, because all my notes are funny. We know that.
The only other thing I think is
Jermaine.
Well, yes, but the only other main thing that I wanted to touch on was Delen's interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Every time that Delen is like questioning whether she's hurting someone by just trying to be nice, I'm like, oh boy, this hurts.
It felt like she wasn't saying something that we were supposed to know. Like, I thought I missed something.
What do you mean?
Because, well, they're getting kind of personal, and they're asking her, like, what does it feel like being part human? And she's like, it sucks. I did it on purpose, though. It's worth it. And then she's, like, crying, talking about the Earth-Minbari War and, like, all the lives that are lost as if it was her fault.
Well, what Cynthia Torkman pushes her on is she says, how would it feel? How do you think it feels for people who lost family in the Earth-Minbari War to see you wearing human features?
Right.
Like, don't you think that that's painful to them?
And then that's what breaks her.
Yeah, because Delen's like, I'm just trying to make things right and bring our species together.
I love Delen, man.
And like, yeah, because, she's got a foot in both worlds, and both worlds are like, we hate you.
You're disgusting to me, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those one-on-ones were really sad. That one's the saddest because she does straight up cry, and it is a bummer. Perky and energetic commander Susan Ivanova, which is how I remember pronouncing that for several episodes. We found out she had a brother named Ganya who died in the war, and the Torkman is like, hey, so like, she says he died in the war, and I joined Earth Force to take up his legacy.
Yeah.
And then Torkman's like, I'm sure there were other reasons for it. Like, there's more to it. And she's like, yeah, there are.
She walks away.
Bye.
I love that.
So good.
I love that.
And then Garibaldi's just like, I just want to get through this without getting fired. Just don't ask me anything hard.
Yeah, Garibaldi, I love him.
I believe you texted me earlier saying you love your Italian American dad.
Yeah, he's the best of us. He's truly the best of us.
He's the sum whole of everything that we wish we could be.
Yeah.
Him and his mix me up in that bagna cauda, man. I'll just get right in there. Dip me in some asparagus, or some asparagus in me. That's all I got.
Me too.
A deeply tense episode, deeply exciting, and then it ends on that really kind of weird. Sheridan, like, when you stumble a lot, you start looking at your feet. We're not just holding jobs and having dinner. We're in the process of building a future. It's like,
Dad.
oh, great. Dad, only by making people understand that we can make a better future for our world and posterity. Good luck, bud.
What a jerk.
What a huge loser. I'm gonna dump his books.
Yeah, dump his books, Don.
Dump his books, Don. Do you want to read our email this week, Magellan?
I would love to read our email this week.
I love to schmooze.
I love to schmooze.
I'm sorry, we have, let's see. That's it. We have two emails. I'm sorry.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, so you can read the Dan one, and I'll read the Paul one.
Oh, great. This email comes to us from our buddy Dan. Dan writes, about Hunter Prey and There All the Honor Lies. It's funny that you joke about Bryan Cranston being on Babylon 5, because the actor absolutely shows up in Season 4 as a very good one-off character. Good.
I feel like I could have guessed that. He spent most of his early career in like one-off episodes of various TV. He was on X-Files for a while.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like what he did before he made it big on Malcolm in the Middle.
The lawyer in There All the Honor Lies was played by Caitlin Brown, who also played Natoth in Season 1. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When Sheridan and Ivanova are bantering about the commercialization of Babylon 5, not only is it very meta, but Ivanova says they shouldn't be a Deep Space franchise, which is a cheeky swat at Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Gotti. As for the confusing bear plotline, I'll just quote JMS directly. Oh yeah, because we didn't know what exactly was going on.
What's up with the bear? Yeah.
Here's the story of the bear. I hate cute. Everybody knows that. This is my JMS that I'm reading for the first time. So after buying Peter David's script number 2, Peter sends me a gift. A bear. A teddy bear. With my initials JS in front and Babylon 5 in the back. I call Peter back. I say that I must now get him for this.
Shit.
JMS. He asks what I had in mind. I said wait and see. So I wrote the entire bear thing at the end of the show and inserted it into his script. Never send me something cute.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
Why are you like this, JMS? I'm sorry. It's just a bear. Imagine that being, honestly, pettiness goals of being like, you sent me a bear, and now I'm writing it into the episode and jettisoning it out of an airlock.
Yeah, I'm spacing it. Oh, we forgot to talk about that little scene where Dr. Franklin, for some reason, is talking about how horrifying it is to die in space.
Yeah, I have a big thing about Franklin in the second episode. Cool. He comes up a little bit in this. It's weird though that the interviewer is like, "So what do you think about Babylon 5?" And he's like, "My friend fucking died."
Yeah.
You're like, "Whoa."
He's really intense in these 2 episodes. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
There's more to Dan's email. Sorry, Dan. The final thing he says is, this show likes the reporter doing a story about Babylon 5 plot. We saw it in Infection, and we see it again here in And Now for a Word, and we'll definitely see it again in the future. It may be a product of JMS having been a journalist himself at one point. I think it works, though. It makes sense to me that reporters would be trying to get all over this place.
It's a really important place, and it, I think just the reporter framing episode accomplishes what it does in this one, which is like, it makes everyone go, why am I the way I am, and how do I act, and what are my motivations?
Yeah.
But thank you, Dan. We got a second email this week from listener Paul, who says, "Hello. Just an email to continue to thank you for providing new insights into Babylon 5.
You're welcome.
That's nice. I never would have thought of them as new insights. I'm just insights. I mean,
don't be humble, bro. You're great. You're doing a great job.
No, I mean, I know we are doing a great job, but I'm just like, I'm flattered by the idea of it being new insights. Thank you.
Nice.
Being fortunate to live in a country where armed police. This is a great email, by the way. I read this earlier. I just remembered it now. Being fortunate to live in a country where armed police are not a common sight in our streets, I had never linked There All the Honor Lies to police brutality, so I was somewhat surprised when this was brought up instantly. While I agree this isn't the best episode, it's worth remembering that B5 was aired in an era before DVD and streaming and was also bumped around the schedules. It therefore couldn't be assumed that viewers would have seen all the episodes, so certain themes, at least in the first 2 seasons, tend to repeat themselves. This episode and theme reminds me of the season 2 opener with the bitter Medbaris, etc. You have, however, reached a point where the show really starts to take off. I would say out of the next 30 episodes, I can only think of maybe 5 or 6 that aren't arc episodes relating to the main story.
Oh, yes.
And almost all of those are strong episodes.
Hear. That's what I like to hear.
Honestly, man, after Shadow of Zahadum, I'm like, yeah, this could just be its own show. We'd never have to do a one-off again.
Yeah. Yeah. We never have to make up an immortality serum again.
He says also the scene where Sheridan visits the monks in Down Below, without getting too spoilery, has 2 cases of foreshadowing. One is Kosh's interest in religion and spirituality, and 2, Sheridan giving away his stat bar. By point of interest, the monks are chanting a Gregorian chant named, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Pur Natus. The English translation reads, "A boy is born to us, and a son is given to us, upon whose shoulders authority rests, and his name will be called the Angel of Great Counsel."
Oh.
And his name will be called. Anyways, keep up the great work with the podcast. Really enjoying it so far. Thank you, Paul. You rule. Yeah, the thing about police brutality is it's not a uniquely American thing, but it's such an important part of our current political discussion that living here, it's impossible to avoid people talking about that.
Right.
And also just living, like Magellan living in a city and me like living adjacent to a city. Like we see these things constantly.
Yeah.
Even in non-urban areas, like police brutality and police violence and the abuse of that power is such a common thing in the States that it's like, it's what this episode reads as, immediately. It just feels like, how can you not see that?
It's just so in the zeitgeist that you can't really avoid it.
Totally. But yeah, thank you for the email. I thought that was really great. I like when people tell us that the show is going to continue getting good. That just really gets me excited.
Oh, yeah.
Magellan, you know what else gets me excited?
Taking a break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this brief little musical break to discuss In the Shadow of Zahadum.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 2, Episode 16, In the Shadow of Zahadum. It was written by J. Michael Straczynski, directed by David J. Eagle. It aired on May 10th, 1995, and it takes place on Sunday, Sunday, September 24th, 2259. Alan, what happened in the Shadow of Zahadum?
Well, Magellan, I'm glad you asked, because this is a chunky episode.
Oh, yeah.
Our summary this week starts with a question. Is John Sheridan above the law? His heart overrides his head when he illegally detains a visitor, Morden, who may know if Sheridan's wife, Anna, presumed dead on an ill-fated scientific exploration, is still alive.
Yeah. And you know what, folks, just for some behind the scenes, this is our second time recording the second half. The first time it was consumed by the shadows.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, very appropriate. But yeah, so nice we have to do it twice.
Yeah, they tried to interfere, and as far as they know, they destroyed the episode, which, lets us prepare for when they strike again or something.
That episode was like the Enigma code. If we released it, then they would have known that we knew about it. But
yeah.
That this metaphor works.
Yeah, you got it right.
I thought in the Shadow of Zahadum was a really fun episode.
It's pretty essential to the show, huh?
It's like oils in that it's essential.
Yeah, it's a lot like oils. I mean that I
Essential.
spread it all over my skin surface.
Ew, Magellan.
Oh yeah.
Can you tell me about the doorbell
Get
noise,
me
by the way?
oily, get me oily. What?
The doorbell noise?
Yeah. This is something I keep forgetting to bring up, and it's time that I just say it now before we start talking about the content of the ep. The doorbell noise on Babylon 5, that when people ring the doorbell in someone's room, I always think it's like an app going off or something. Like something I left on, or I let it give me push notifications and I didn't realize. It doesn't feel like it's in the show. The little...
That's a perfect place for me to drop a clip in. Thank you, Magellan.
Let's do it one more time. All right.
Yeah, it's like very crisp, and it doesn't sound diegetic in a way that is like, oh, I'm gonna look at my phone. Like,
actually, Alan, I'm just gonna leave the room real quick and come back in. Okay.
Okay, sure.
All right, so I'm leaving. All right, see you soon, dude.
Bye, dude. All right, guys. So I'm talking about in the Shadow of Zahadum. Oh, Magellan, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Please come in.
Thanks.
This episode's first major scene is honestly one of its best. We have Veer sitting outside of an airport restaurant talking to Morden. Yeah. Morden is all like, hey, Veer, where's Londo Malari? He's the one I wanted to give this message to. And Veer's like, eat a butt? Eat a whole butt? I hate you, and
Dad.
You're bad.
I hate you, sexy dad.
Everyone's a dad on Babylon 5. Londo's a sad dad. Garibaldi's an Italian-American hero dad. Sheridan's a strict war dad. Morden's a hot dad.
Yeah, Morden's like the dad who has a new family who never needed you.
Wow. This episode made me like Morden a lot more. He does say, because they're just throwing insults back and forth at each other. This is like the first time we see Morden being legitimately rude to someone.
Right, because before he's just been kind of neutral and cautious, but now he's getting a little spicy.
He's kind of the opposite of cautious, because cautious is the other race of people who...
Okay, just a nice slow clap.
Golf clip it, thank you. He says, and how is your war going? Just like a trash man.
Yeah.
I hate you. Forces Veer to sit down, and then Veer drops just the most fire diss of all time.
Yeah.
Do you want to read this to the
kids? I have
kids?
it here. Yeah. It's in the memorable quotes section of this page of the Babylon 5 wiki. In fact, it's the only memorable quote that's here. And let me do a check. Yeah, it's the only memorable quote on the whole website, actually.
Wow. It's the only memorable quote, period, ever.
So let me just go to quotes.com. Oh, funny. Ben Franklin is done. He never said a thing.
Not a word.
Not a word. Yeah, you know Ernest Hemingway?
Yeah.
Dude, he's fucking mute. It's only Veer. Only Veer. Here's what Veer says to Morden. I'll do it in my Veer impression, okay?
Please. It's like you're being throttled?
A little bit. Like you're trying to shout over someone trying to choke you. It seems like that's what the voice is. I want to live just long enough to be there when they cut off your head and stick it on a pike as a warning to the next 10 generations that some favors come with too high a price. I would look up into your lifeless eyes and wave like this. Can you and your associates arrange that for me, Mr. Morden?
Mr. Morden. Oh, yeah, this is in response to Morden being like, what do you want? Because I'm ready to ruin someone else's life. Does Veer give him the Bester wave in this moment when he says this is how we would wave to you, or am I just conflating?
I don't remember.
I just forget what the Bester wave... Oh, no, the Bester wave is like a hat tip, I thought. It's like a fake, like a hello.
I don't
like
think,
a milady.
I don't think Veer would do that. Doesn't seem quite right.
Veer's not a men's rights activist. That's not accurate.
Yeah.
I was initially disappointed that our way of getting into Shadow stuff was Sheridan wife drama, because he's looking over some documents and looking over some footage from the Icarus, the ship that his wife supposedly died on, and Garibaldi's in the room. He goes, oh, who's that guy in the ship's logs? I know that guy. Mm-hmm. And that's our cut to opening credits, is that we see Morden was on the Icarus, or at least was in the manifest.
Yeah.
kind of a silly way to get us into things, but whatever. It got us there.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate that Sheridan's motivation for being linked to this is that a woman died. Just in general, like, women dying is used as a motivation for male characters. It's frustrating.
Right.
But like, it didn't feel like that was like, it felt like that was being set up, at least, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unfortunate, but it's consistent with what the show has been hinting at already. It felt like it was paying something off.
Yeah, a lot of this episode, especially with the Sheridan stuff, felt like a reward for long-term investment, which I think is great in this type of show that's full of long arcs and like progressive character development.
Yeah.
Sheridan does slowly disassemble in this episode in a way that I like.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The best Sheridan is like falling apart, ripping at the seams. Sheridan.
Right, exactly. But it's in part because we're used to the composure of Sheridan and the like smart knows how to get things done Sheridan, so that when things crack, it's like really engaging as a viewer. He detains Morden. He puts out a notice that says if Morden ever tries to leave the ship, get him out and put him in my office. Zach Allen catches him literally on the way out, and we get this like long series of interrogation scenes where he's asking Morden like, "Hey, how were you on the Icarus, and how did you survive?" And Morden, the creepiest thing about him is that he already had all of these lies lined up. He's like, "Oh, I was on an expedition outside of the ship, and I was in space when it blew up.
Yeah.
I wasn't there." And then Sheridan's like, "Well, why didn't you tell Earth government?" And he's like, "Well, and it's just so slimy that he has an answer for this too. He's like, I tried. I guess they didn't answer. Oh well, like
yeah."
So I just decided to stay a fugitive or an unknown person on Babylon 5 for all these years. That seemed like a normal thing to do.
Today I was proctoring an exam at school, and I had to collect students' phones prior to the exam. And I had one student look me dead in the eyes, and he says, "I don't have my phone." And I was like, "Really? You came to school without your phone?" And he completely deadpan stares me in the eyes, and he says, "My mom sent it to Africa." And, and it's like, I know you're lying. You know you're lying. But he's saying it with such confidence that I have nothing. And that's that's a minor facsimile of the emotion that Sheridan is feeling. Of like, I know what you're saying is not true, but I can't do anything about it because I can't.
Because laws exist.
Yeah. And because, in my case, it's like I'm going to assume that a student's telling me the truth. But
yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone else realizes this pretty quickly on the ship. We have Garibaldi, in one of the best Garibaldi moments, stopping Sheridan and being like, "You've had this guy," and this is the moment where you start to realize that maybe Sheridan's going above a little overboard. Garibaldi's like, "Dog, it's been 10 hours.
Right. And in that moment, it's like, oh, okay. All right. Because you're picturing that it's been maybe an hour.
Yeah.
10 hours seems
minutes.
Insane, though.
Yeah. Like, you need to sleep or eat or something.
Yeah.
You and Dr. Franklin need to both share a collective nap and then a collective burger. And he's like, "No, he's gonna crack. He's gonna tell me everything. My wife is on the line, Michael." And Garibaldi's like, "Yeah, damn it, do be like that. I guess when your wife is on the line, you can break rules? No.
Sorry, bro. You gotta pick between your dead wife and your best friend."
Kiss me right now. Prove what you mean. And Garibaldi has that part where he's like, "I've done what you're doing before. I throw people's heads against bar tables constantly. You can't do that once we're in the jail cells. This is where we have to follow the rules and be by the book. And if you keep doing this, then that's me going against the book because I have authority. You're messed up."
It's sort of a weird line. I guess it makes sense, but at first when I watched this, I was like, "Yeah, Garibaldi, the moral guy. He's great, lawful good." Except no, what he's saying is like, yeah, you can be brutal and cruel, but when the cameras are on, you have to pretend to be a good cop. That's what he's basically saying.
Right. When it's on the record, you don't get to break the rules. Just when we're off duty and we're being
Just
cops walking around
dark
the
and
bar.
kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
There's like definitely the modern reread of Garibaldi as a character, I think, is less generous towards him than maybe it was meant to be read at the time.
Right. It feels like his arc is leaning towards empathy over just like severity.
Yeah.
And over like brute strength. Like he's trying to be a kinder person and trying to listen to people, understand them, but like you said, right now he's still at the phase of like, I'll be nice if it means I don't get fired.
Yeah, right.
But if I can just throw people into walls, that's fine, not at all extra legal. But yeah, that part is great. We have other people who Sheridan runs into in his adventures.
Yeah, everybody takes their turn saying, "Bro, are you good?
Are you good? Hey, just checking in. You good?
Yeah, are you?" It's nice that the crew cares about each other so much, and it also is a testament to the fact that Babylon 5 has clearly shown us what Sheridan is normally like.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an audience member, I felt every time that someone was like, "Are you good?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm wondering the same thing, Ivanova. Thanks for asking him."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Delenn, this dude is off the chain in a bad way.
Ivanova's is one of the saddest ones too, where she's like, Sheridan, like you're the good captain. You can't be doing stuff like this. This isn't how it's supposed to go. She has this like C plot that's barely addressed on right and it's her and Dr. Franklin, and he's talking about how he's taking stims, which is definitely not going to go well.
Yeah.
He's up all night trying to help out all of the Narn refugees.
Yeah, usually I'm up all night for good fun.
And I'm up all night to get lucky.
Yeah.
But neither of us is up all night to take stimulants. Drugs are bad,
Drugs
kids.
are bad.
Franklin's going to have to reckon with that. Ivanova's trying to help him through it. It's going to go badly. We all know this. And she's telling Sheridan, like, maybe stop being a horrible cop. Talia is reintroduced in this episode. She actually, her first scene is with this guy who comes to her house. This is where we hear the boo-doo-doo-doo, like the little doorbell. And the guy's like, "Oh, I want you to come to a meeting about some stuff." And her and Zach Allen are in the back of this meeting where this guy from the Ministry of Peace tells them all about this new corporate foundation group called the Night Watch.
Right.
Which is just a, like, vigilante group that is starting on Babylon 5.
Yeah, and they've got armbands.
Yeah,
and
nothing more fascist
like,
than
cool.
armbands with cute logos.
These are nice.
Yeah.
Slip this right over my sleeve.
Just toss that right on there.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to go well.
So much of this era of Babylon 5 is like, oh, that's a cool thing. That's going to go badly.
Yeah, someone's going to get their life ruined by that, huh? Awesome.
For sure. Excellent.
Yeah.
What's the line from that part also? I believe it is, man, I really need to just figure out how to use my notes better. That's sort of what I can learn.
You sound like a student in my class.
We must help protect society against its own worst instincts. Like, ooh.
Yeah. That is really some scary stuff right there.
It is very scary because you don't know what that's going to be. And Zach Allen's a cop already, and now he's going to get to be an extra legal cop, and it's like
and we love him so much. He's our favorite character.
Out of everyone on the
We
whole
adore
show.
Zach Allen. We want to see him on screen more.
He has my name in his name.
Yeah.
But it's spelled wrong.
I'm being sarcastic, but Allen loves this guy.
I'm being sarcastic, but Magellan doesn't love this guy.
Wait.
Let's call the whole thing off.
You confused me. You confused me. Yeah, so that's going to go weird places. And it kind of ends on a funny note where Garibaldi's like, "What is that armband?" And Zach Allen says, "They're paying me $50 to wear this thing. Can you believe it?
It's sick.
There are no strings attached."
I don't have to do anything. I can't wait for Zach Allen to become Batman. He's just going to don the cape.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be fantastic. Him and the Rangers, except the Rangers are good and pure and must be protected.
Yeah, so each of the side characters is representing a different tactic to try to get Sheridan to chill out. So Garibaldi's like, "Hey, care about your coworkers?" Sheridan says, "I don't." Ivanova says, "Hey, care about your job? Because I'm going to have to write you up." And Sheridan says, there were only two things I cared about in my life, my wife and my career. And after my wife died, I made my whole life about my job. And now there's a chance to figure something out about her, and I don't give a shit about my fucking job.
Job can go frella.
Yeah. Then Talia's appeal is like, you're using the letter of the law to defeat the spirit of the law. It's like, don't you care about justice and rules? And he's like, no, I don't. And so he arranges for her to walk down the hall past Morden to accidentally witness his beautiful dark twisted fantasy, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
To witness his cameo role in Into the Spider-Verse.
Blech.
To witness his horror remake of Ally McBeal. That's all I got. Those are my
thinking of more things with like goo monsters. They're gross.
Yeah, they're not scary though, huh?
No, it's just like as soon as you see them, you're like, oh, that's what the threat is. It's just like gooey aliens.
Yeah, it's sort of like that movie Eight-Legged Freaks, where they're just like goofy spiders.
Yes. What?
Eight-Legged Freaks.
I haven't
It's
heard
like
of
a
it.
classic B movie horror. Oh no, it's not.
Yeah.
That one's a parody of B movie horror films, maybe.
Fair enough. I think the most disappointing shot of the Shadows is the one when Kosh gives Sheridan the vision, like, check out what you've got coming up on Babylon 5. And it zooms in on this, like, cave on the Zahadum, and it's just, like, this dumb... It honestly looks exactly like the precursors from Mass Effect. And I think, obviously, they took inspiration from this, but it's just this, like, multi-eyed, spider-like, brown-black creature.
Precursors.
Yeah, or whatever they're called in that. Prometheans, I think? Also, Protheans, excuse me.
The Protheans, okay. Let's go.
Yeah. Also, if you're wondering what that random picture I sent you in the Skype chat is, that's David J. Eagle, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
Doesn't he look great? I'll post this picture of David J. Eagle on the Twit.
They do look like these guys, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, so these are like the first beings of Mass Effect. But anyways.
What's your take on this, like, first beings, first ones kind of thing? As like a plot.
I guess seeing it in this
show
you know what?
Let's actually... Sorry, we jumped ahead. Let's get to where he learns about it, and then I'm going to ask you that again.
Sure.
So Dr. Franklin yells at him for something. Like people are dying, or... What's Dr. Franklin say to Sheridan?
I forget if Dr. Franklin talks to Sheridan.
He does. He, like, because Sheridan comes in after Talia wakes up, and she slaps him in the face.
Oh,
and then Dr. Franklin says something to him, but I can't remember what it is.
I mean, I think that the gist of it is like, you know, follow the do what's what everyone else is saying is like you can't break the rules to do something to get something done.
Yeah, and then
I think.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just think that one of the points that solidifies that Babylon 5 is a show created by at least somewhat by leftists is that this is a common trope in these types of stories of like the main guy gets what he wants done by going above the law. And at the end of the day, it's worth it because he gets the job done. And in any other show, that would just work, and that'd be like, wow, can't let him do that again, but man, he freaking did it. And in this episode, it hard stops before he completely breaks the law, and people are like, no. Every single person is like, no, Sheridan, that's not how things work in the future. You don't just get to skip your duties and not be a good person if it means that you can find out about your dumb dead wife. That is not how things work. And I like that the episode doesn't land on his side of being like, wow, great job, Sheridan, at the end.
Yeah. Like there's a sort of greater good that he has to surrender to, you're saying.
Yeah. But so anyway, everybody tells him about their opinions on the situation. And I believe, does the Zach Allen thing happens last? And then the Delenn and Kosh stuff happens.
So...
the Hollywood power couple of the year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what ends up working on Sheridan is Delenn and Kosh say, you gotta let this guy go because, and Sheridan says, tell me why. Ain't nothing but a
They're touring, dude.
Who? Delenn and Kosh?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. And then they say, okay, let us just sit you down and tell you the plot of Babylon 5. Real quick. It'll take like 5 minutes. We'll tell you everything.
Just like get comfortable.
Yeah.
We're about to dump some fat lore on you, Captain
lore.
Sheridan.
And so this gets me to the question I asked you earlier, where Delenn and Kosh basically say, okay, there are these first ones and shadows, and the shadows are always trying to destroy people, and the first ones have helped us to fight them before, but now the first ones are gone, mostly. And, oh, by the way, the Vorlons are first ones, or Kosh is a first one, or something. And we got to fight them, and we can't let them know that they know. We can't let them know that we know that they exist still.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you earlier was, this is a plot that happens a lot in sci-fi.
Yes.
There was a race of beings before all other races.
Mm-hmm.
The first ones, and we're going to learn about them and encounter them, and yada, yada, yada. What do you think of that as a thing?
I think somebody came up with that initially, and it was really cool to be like, oh, this is a genre that's focused on looking forward and seeing, like, what does the future hold for us? And very often the answer of, like, the greater question answer of, like, who's controlling things, or who is the greater evil, who's the greater good, is somebody that has existed since the beginning of times in the past and has been dormant for years while we've gone and advanced and fought and built and created and all this stuff. And there's something cool about that. I really think there is. I mean, what's exciting in this episode is the feeling that there is something at the end of all this bait, and that there's an answer. There's a concrete answer for once. Because we can't answer the question on Babylon 5 of, like, why is there war? We have thematic questions like, why can't we have nice things, and how do wars start? But there isn't, like, a singular answer to, like, why is there war, or how do we end war? But when you present something that's like, why is Kosh the way he is? Or what are the shadows? And that has a finite answer that's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's started like that, and it's always been like that, but the problem is that a lot of sci-fi writers borrow from the same well. And we've seen this plot line in every show, video game, and film in the last, like, 20 years.
Right. I think where I'm at with it is usually this plot annoys me because it's frustrating to me that, like, it seems like always the way to raise the stakes of your sci-fi universe show or game is to be like, but there was a secret race of ancient beings that we're going to find out about now, and they have magic powers or something. There are things that do it well. Like, it's satisfying. To me, it works like in Knights of the Old Republic, the games, for example, because there's kind of there's like a flavor to it that's different than where I've seen it other places. But the places where I'm bothered by it, I think what bothers me is that it feels like it's happening on the fly, you know? Whereas here, it definitely feels like everything is being planned for and everything is going to pay off. I trust in Babylon 5 to not be making shit up as they go along.
Right, especially, and again, pulling the curtain back, we didn't mention this in our first attempt at recording this, but one of the, like, parts of Delenn and Kosh explaining all this stuff to Sheridan is they finally answer a question I didn't even know I had, which was that in Chrysalis, Delenn says something to Veer like, oh, did Kosh ever answer my question? And we see this whole scene. It's in black and white, which is really silly to do, like, a flashback to one season ago, and it's in black and white.
Linear, I think you said Veer.
Yes, you're right, linear.
Yeah.
And linear is like, the answer he said is just yes. And she's like, oh, shit. And then Sheridan's like, all right, well, we know the answer. What was the question? And we never even thought about. I didn't even think about that. In the moment, because there's so much else going on in Chrysalis.
Right.
But she says the question was, are the shadows back on Sahadum? Have they returned? And for Kosh to say yes, it's like, oh shit.
Right.
Uh-oh.
They're paying things off that I, like, do not even remember.
Exactly. But you wouldn't be surprised if you went back and watched Chrysalis and you're like, of course that was there. Yeah. It seems like a very deliberate show with that stuff.
Linear.
Mr. Garibaldi.
So Sheridan decides, all right, I guess the one thing that matters more to me than my dead wife is, like, billions of people.
Yeah, I guess.
And he talks to Zach Allen. He gives him this history lesson. Zach Allen says that he used to fall asleep in history class, so
Unacceptable.
He's canceled for us.
Yep.
He's done.
Oh.
He's off the show. Actually, it's pretty
Damn,
funny.
bummer.
It's pretty funny. This is his last appearance, and yeah, now he got a spin-off series with Warren Keffer, just for Trash Boys to watch.
What? Hey! It's called Entourage.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
he's like, Zach Allen, does this TV have different settings? And he's like, yeah, dude, it's sick. It's got like negative vision, X-ray vision, like googly eyes vision. Which one do you want? And he's like, just cycle through them, bud. I'm gonna look at this TV and see what happens. It's the monitor that's showing Morden like just his hands together, seemingly in prayer. The different views reveal that it is in fact not prayer, but a whispering conversation to his shadow buddies who've been following him around this whole time. Again, they look like shit. They look so dumb. It's the other problem with the first one's plot is that the first ones never look cool. They never do.
Right,
I think Kosh is awesome.
Right. Like nothing can live up to the expectation of the first ones.
I remember the Farscape first ones where it was like shrimp people.
Yeah, Farscape did it too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Dang, dude.
Yeah, this is a thing. It just feels exciting in the moment because it feels like they're building to something, and it's Delenn and Kosh being like, bud, you're gonna hate this. This is gonna ruin your whole life.
Yeah. So then to Zach Allen, he says, okay, here's the thing. Back in World War II, the British had cracked the Enigma code that the Nazis were using, and they heard about a raid that was going to go towards Coventry, a British town, and they had to decide what to do, because if they evacuated Coventry, it'd be obvious that they knew the code, and the Nazis would switch the code. But if they didn't evacuate, then they're condemning the people of Coventry to death, basically. And they decide not to evacuate and keep their knowledge of the code a secret. Then he talks about, and then Churchill went, and he looked real guilty because he murdered some people, or he let some people be murdered, rather.
Truly a thin line difference, though.
Right. And then Zach Allen was like, woof. Now that's a hard decision. Good thing I'm a minor character who never has to do anything of that level of importance.
Yeah, it's the moment where Sheridan is basically like, yeah, okay, that's valid. I understand. Also, he gets the easy pass of Delenn and Kosh being like, we'll tell you all the things that you're going to learn from Morden, but if you get them out of him, he's going to die and you're going to accelerate the war and we're not going to win, and that's going to be super bad. Yeah. So just don't worry about it for now.
Yeah.
And he does, and he lets Morden leave. And that's the end of that. We have this last scene, though, where Sheridan speaks to Kosh one-on-one. And he's like, hey, Kosh, I know we've been talking a lot and you've been training me in how to be a nice person and how to do transcendental meditation. But what if you taught me how to wield a shadow gun?
Yeah, what if you taught me how to kill these things?
And Kosh is like, you're going to die. He's like, no, I'll go to Zahadum and I'll fight all of them. And I'll get my wife back. And Kosh is like, you're super going to die.
This is my Kosh impression.
Yeah.
If you go to Zahadum, you will die.
But Kosh, can you still teach me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Do you want fries with your burger?
Yes.
Yeah, you get that kids meal, Kosh, baby. Hell yeah. Yeah, it's weird hearing Kosh just say yes.
Yeah, it's so out of character.
A word he's never said before, except when someone's like, are we all going to die in a horrible nightmare? Yes.
In flame.
I love my booger dad.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's what we got. It's a big episode.
Huge.
And it really solidifies that this show is going to just be going full speed ahead from now on. I hope. God, I hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Let's talk about it, though. What are we watching next week on Chatzylon 5?
Oh, let me tell you, my friend. Let me pull that up for you. Next week, we're watching the next 2 episodes of Babylon 5 of Season 2. We're getting closer and closer to the end of our 2nd season. Can you believe it?
Fuck yeah.
Can you believe it? Our
I love
first
it.
episode next week is Season 2, Episode 17, Knives. Sheridan is plagued by bizarre visions.
Thank you. And thank you.
Then we're watching Season 2, Episode 18, Confessions and Lamentations. Ancient beliefs, contemporary ignorance, and futuristic medicine clash when a plague threatens the station. Cool.
Station plague episode, but I mean, if again, this
Love a
episode,
good clash.
that's true. But this episode confirmed to me that, like, oh, they can do this. They got this.
Yeah.
I have faith that even a silly side episode of Babylon 5 will be a fun one. But yeah, that's what we got. Let's take it to the plug zone, Magellan.
Let's do it.
If you would like to email us questions, comments, concerns, or requests to be on an episode of Chatzylon 5, you can do so by sending email to chatspod@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at chatspod, CHATZPOD. Please also consider rating us on iTunes and supporting us financially at patreon.com/chatspod, where at $2 a month, you'll get a monthly film commentary from us. As we wind up for February, we're going to be watching 3 movies, all romantic comedies.
Oh, yeah.
All fun, all spicy, all delicious. And at $5 a month, you get that plus Chats Nights, a bi-weekly hangout show where Magellan and I just kind of leave the mics on and talk about stuff. It's great. It's good stuff. We're going to record one after this,
Heck
probably.
yeah.
Fries. Magellan, what is your chatsum for this week?
My chatsum for this week, dude. Have we talked about Song Exploder before?
You've like pseudo recommended it before.
But not in a chats.
No, it was in a chatsum. It was like
Crap!
you had a main chatsum and then you also mentioned, because you do double chatsums for some reason. You burn so many loads, dude.
Dang.
Was there a Song Exploder recently with Rivers Cuomo?
Oh, I don't know about Rivers Cuomo, but the one I was going to recommend, I guess I've talked about it before, but Song Exploder is a podcast where they take apart a song through an interview with the person who created it, and you get to hear all the different pieces of the song as it's being built around your ears, which is a really cool audio experience. And I just listened to one that's semi-recent about the song Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh my god.
It's
the most Magellan thing in the world.
It's an interview with Lindsey Buckingham, who has like the lamest speaking voice in the world. It's awesome. He's like, yeah, Stevie Nicks and I were in love, but she didn't really love me anymore. And anyway, I made this really amazing song where I sing like this. Anyway, it's great. It's really cool. And you get to hear all the different vocal tracks and how all the guitars are layered on top of each other. And he also tells you about all the drama that was going on. It's a wonderful episode of audio.
Chatzylon 5 episode 13 season 1 recap. Magellan recommends the Emotion Tribute album and the Song Exploder podcast.
All right. Well, this is a specific Song Exploder episode. Here,
Yes.
I'll also do another double chat since this is legit. Just go to sleep.
Yeah, just get a good, what is it, a big fat nap,
Get
you
a
said?
big fat night of sleep. That's going to benefit your life more than anything that we've recommended. Get
It's
sleep
true.
and just drink some water.
Oh, please hydrate. Please hydrate.
Please just hydrate and go to bed.
Yeah, these are Magellan further leaning into his like cartoon dad
I'm trying
personality.
to take care of you guys.
I'm trying to look out for you guys.
You're not drinking enough water and you're not sleeping enough at night. And it's not
That's just a fact.
It's not a badge of honor.
Nope.
It's not a
absolutely
contest
not.
to sleep the least.
Nope.
You got to
Because
give
first of all, somebody will always sleep less than you, and second of all, it's a net bad.
you got to give that flesh sack what it craves.
You're not Kosh. You don't have a funky encounter suit that you can just kind of turn down
Yeah.
and then you
And
fall
you
asleep in
don't
it.
need to have one. You don't
Be your own
need to.
encounter suit.
Yes.
Take a nap.
Yes. What about you?
Well, Magellan, is it okay if I do a self-plug for this usually not
I
self-plugging
want
segment?
you to.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to recommend my own podcast that I also co-host called The Garnet Wager.
Whoa.
That's a show where my friend Six and I, and now our friend Nick, also talk about the Korean game show Crime Scene, which is a really interesting and weird like improv investigation show where everyone picks a character and then one of them's the murderer and they got to investigate a crime scene and like interrogate each other. It's really fun, and the podcast has been really good lately. We've been having a good string of episodes. Check it out wherever you listen to those podcast things.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Chatzylon 5. Peace.